We have Martin. So Martin will be giving a presentation about creating a pipeline of AM skilled workforce via apprenticeships. So Martin, I can see you online. Thank you very much for joining us, Martin. Just want to introduce Martin. So Martin Dury is the head of future skills at the Manufacturing Technology Centre, which is home to the National Centre for Additive Manufacturing here in the UK. He's responsible for disrupting the underserved sector of workforce development through the creation and piloting of new future-proof academic and training programs that support UK manufacturing. Martin's very impressive talk, so probably allow you to share the screen because I know that time is quite tight for you. So thank you very much, Martin. It's a pleasure to see you this afternoon.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm just going to turn my camera off to save on a bit of bandwidth, but hopefully you guys can see that presentation.
It's great, thank you. I can see your shared screen.
Yeah.
I think the shared screen is cut off.
Can you see that now?
Yes, I can see that. Try full screen mode.
There we go.
Yes, that looks great. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. Well, afternoon, everybody. My name is Martin Dury. As you just heard, I'm the head of future skills at the Manufacturing Technology Centre based in Coventry. I'm going to spend the next 10 or 15 minutes just taking you through our approach to creating a pipeline of AM skilled workforce via apprenticeships in the UK. And then there'll be an opportunity for questions. For those of you that haven't heard of us, the MTC is based in Coventry. We opened in 2011 and we're one of the 7 high-value manufacturing catapult centres that support UK manufacturing industry with the adoption of disruptive technology. We tackled this challenge by combining advanced manufacturing research and development excellence, which comes out of the building on the right, with an education and training provision that addresses the associated competencies that are required to adopt these technologies, and that's out of the centre that you can see there on the left. The MTC's remit is to bridge the valley of death by driving the applied research across the mid-technology readiness levels and support industry with technology implementation at the high TRLs. So you can see that the training centre starts to kick in there around about TRL level 7, 8 and 9. I look after a team of future skills advisors, and their remit is to develop the next generation of engineer and technician by creating completely new provisions that address these needs across these TRL levels. We then support industry by piloting these provisions, pump priming industry with hopefully the workforce of tomorrow. And then on a scale-up side of things, we look at helping other training providers to deliver the same programs. So it's not so much of a land grab from the MTC, but trying to enable the training infrastructure across the UK. So how do we do that? We identify, develop and deliver these provisions by following a process which has recently been formalised, and it's referred to as the skills value chain. In summary, the skills value chain, if you look across the sort of middle arrows from left to right, it's a 6-step process. And step 1 consists of us foresighting future workforce capability through the insights of the work that's going on in the catapult centres and other RTOs. In step 2, we identify and curate these competencies that are required by the workforce to adopt these technologies, and we map them to education and training provisions in the UK to see if they exist, to see if they partly exist or if they don't exist at all. If they don't exist, in step 3, we develop any curricula and training material that's unavailable and start to create a national offer. In step 4, we will set up the associated validation and recognition of those training offers. For example, it may be the validation or the accreditation of apprenticeship units or degree modules, or indeed just a curricula of short courses. But interestingly, step 5, our plan then is to not only deliver the programs ourselves, but to scale up the delivery capability across the UK through trainer-trainer programs, which I'll tell you more about in a moment. And then finally, we actively seek complementary further education and higher education partners, or indeed independent training providers, to work with us to deliver this national offer. If you want to know more about the skills value chain, there was a paper written by the Gatsby Foundation in 2019 entitled Manufacturing the Future Workforce, and the links on the slide there. It's quite an interesting read. So, as we heard at the start in the introduction there, the MTC houses the National Centre for Additive Manufacturing. And in 2018, they flagged that this technology was an area that required disruption. And as a consequence, we engaged my future skills team to carry out the skills value chain, looking into the workforce demand for AM and the current education and training provision, predominantly across the engineering roles and the technician roles. What we found, try to articulate on the screen here, is we worked with a large number of process experts and early adopters from primes and even very small engineering companies with just 3 or 4 staff. And we captured the tasks that these experts were conducting from top left there, the initial client engagement, where the requirements captures took place, shown on the left, all the way through to the post-processing and part qualification, shown on the right. Every task that we captured, we also captured any associated underpinning knowledge, skills, and behaviour that was required by these early adopters to conduct the task. We conducted somewhere in the region of 40 workshops where we brought in a number of experts. What became very quickly apparent is that these tasks were predominantly conducted by incredibly high skilled process experts that are obviously utilised to do all of these stages. So we've got PhD experts not only doing the design, but liaising with the client, actually working out how to manufacture the product, but then interestingly spending time in the workshop, grinding off supports with Dremels and doing all the hands-on technician work. And as a result, many of the benefits and the potential cost savings associated with additive were not being realised. In actual fact, quite a lot of mistakes were being made as these process experts perhaps weren't experts in things like the metrology side of things. So it became quite an interesting sort of observation. When we asked if they were utilising technicians, for example, and materials experts, they generally weren't. And we conducted this mapping across all 7 processes for additive. You can see here some of the outputs of those skills mapping sessions, which took around 9 months to conduct. After all the tasks and the knowledge and the skills were collected, we curated these into typical engineering and technician roles, more aligned to the manufacturing process, which you can see here. So this is more of an aspirational observation that a lot of the experts agreed with, but didn't have access to. So that was more along the lines of an application engineer taking a broad knowledge base of the benefits of all 7 processes and understanding which process, if any, would apply to the client, and passing that over to a design and simulation engineer, liaising with materials, metrology and manufacturing engineers, but more importantly, engaging the services of the technicians to actually produce the work in the workshops. Now that we could sort of identify the roles that should be involved, we produced competency frameworks which curated the knowledge, skills and behaviours which we would expect from each one of those individuals. Clearly, this differentiates. This is different depending on the size of the organisation. So what Rolls-Royce might see as a requirement is quite different to a small SME. But nevertheless, we knew exactly which competencies were used for which roles, and the SMEs agreed that they might, for example, combine the services of an applications engineer with a design engineer as a smaller business. So what was the outcome? We cross-mapped these frameworks that we'd written against the current national standards and curricula on offer. And what we found was, regards apprenticeships for the technician roles that we spoke about, there were no apprenticeship modules, units, or standards for additive manufacture. Some engineering technician standards were actually about 75% fit for purpose. So, for example, a typical engineering technician apprenticeship has things like engineering principles and CAD, which is all very relevant, but doesn't have actually anything to do with the additive side of things. These standards could be relatively easily adapted to have an additive pathway associated to them, if only the additive manufacturing units existed. So we took it about it ourselves to create those additive manufacturing units, which you can see on the screen, and more of that in a moment. So rather than create a completely new additive manufacturing apprenticeship, which takes a good sort of 2 years working with the Institute for Apprenticeships, our tack was to try and adapt those programs that were 75% sort of fit for purpose. Also, regards the training side of things, aside of apprentices and maybe considering upskilling the existing workforce of the UK, we did find that there was a small number of sort of fragmented training offers. This was about 2 years ago. And a lot of these training offers were predominantly offered by equipment providers. Using the competency frameworks as guidance, we created 4 apprenticeship units in industrial additive manufacture. We created a knowledge unit, which takes you through the end-to-end additive manufacturing processes, all 7 types, and the value of that, so that the technicians would understand the entire value chain. And then we designed 3 competency units in additive manufacturing, material handling, the operating of industrial additive machinery, and post-processing. Those units can be tailored based on the type of materials used, the type of equipment used, and the type of post-processing used by the independent business. To address the sort of current workforce and not just focus on the new workforce or apprenticeships, we also put together a national curriculum by pulling together that fragmented sort of training offer that we identified, and then filling in any gaps that we found weren't covered. So typically the OEMs are incredibly good at providing operation equipment training. Equally, there's nobody better to teach you on Fusion 360 than Autodesk and the likes. But we found a lot of things to do with material handling and health and safety and even design wasn't covered in detail. So what we can see on the screen here is a curriculum we put together, which goes through a foundation stage at the bottom of the page, where there is 3 courses available. It then takes you through an advanced stage, where it takes you through different options based on the process you're using, and then an expert stage at the top. The darker sort of yellow training courses are the ones offered by the MTC, and the yellow ones are those offered by the OEMs. There's also some process generic courses that add a lot of value to additive manufacturing if you are working in certain sectors. So they are sort of as and where necessary or pertinent to the business. By the way, if anyone is a provider of training and they want to work with us so that we can promote their training courses as part of our curriculum, we'd be more than happy to hear from them. So to date, what's the impact been? In addition to offering an additive manufacturing apprenticeship, which we've now started to do, we've recently delivered a train-the-trainer session as part of the skills value chain step 5 there, where it says deliver early stage training. Funded by the Department for Education, we've brought in the UK's 12 institutes of technology, which are sort of level 4 advanced apprenticeship programs facilities. All 12 institutes of technology, which are spread around the UK, attended the MTC, where we delivered a trainer program for the additive apprenticeship program, and we also handed over all of the training material for them to use free of charge. So over the last week, we've enabled another 12 centres to be able to deliver this additive apprenticeship program. So you can see that happening there. To date, we also offer a choice of 31 interactive short courses to upskill the UK's existing workforce. And we're working with partners to share some of those products so they can also avoid reinventing the wheel and designing courses that may be already been produced by the National Centre for Additive. And then finally, what you can see on the top right of the screen here is we produced quite an innovative online training needs analysis tool. This is free to access. It can be accessed online either by computer or by mobile app. And the online training needs analysis tool basically tests any user on the competencies associated in those frameworks that we've written. So on entering the training needs analysis tool, if you identify you're an engineer that's interested in design for additive, the tool will actually test you against all the different competencies by asking you questions. Like, for example, you can see one on optimization here. And based on your results given, it will signpost you to courses that would be of benefit to you based on your assumed development needs, or indeed, it would recommend that you don't attend certain courses as they might not be of benefit to you based on your existing knowledge. So that's a whistle-stop tour of how we're tackling apprenticeships in the UK. For those of you that aren't aware, and apologies if you are, in England, apprenticeships nowadays are funded by an apprenticeship levy. So as long as the apprenticeship is a standard written by industry, large businesses can actually fund that their apprentices go through any programs like this, utilising an apprenticeship levy, which is a tax imposed by large businesses, and they can only get this tax back by spending it on apprentices. Our additive manufacturing apprenticeship is part of the levy standard. It's part of standard SGO 457. It's a 4-year apprenticeship. Like I say, it's an existing engineering technician standard with an additive pathway. So it's quite a diverse, broad program which goes into significant depth into additive industrial applications. So last but not least, I would like to take this opportunity to mention something that we launched internally in the MTC to encourage our own engineers to make more of additive manufacturing in their designs. Our aim was to remove a barrier for the uptake of additive, which in this case was knowledge, typically, how to use additive and when to use it. We've heard about from other people on this keynote. So we could see this as a challenge within our own business, and we wanted to tackle that. The benefit for the additive team was to gain a better understanding of what people could be using it for, but what they were finding difficult. This internal service offered a review of the design within 24 hours of the request, and when we would advise if the design would be beneficial from being printed, and if it was, we would perhaps suggest changes needed, plus offer suggestions in design for manufacturing improvements, alternative processes, and possibly even alternative materials. What I'd like to float past the audience here is the MTC, after the success of this internal program, are now considering launching this service to the public and offering it to UK industrial companies. And so what I'd like to put to you is, would any of you think this would be a good idea and a benefit to either the academic community or the clients that you're working with? And that is to take advantage of a free design review for additive manufacture. That's it from me. thank you very much for your patience and time. If anybody would like to know more about the MTC, our Future Skills team, or indeed anything I spoke about, like the skills value chain, please drop me a line and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Martin, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. I think, Martin, I understand that you might need to go soon, but there was a very quick question in the chat box. This person has asked, great presentation, Martin. Where can we find the online assessment tool?
Yep. So if you Google mtc.org, you'll see some links in there for the different services. One of them will be training, and also within that training area, you'll see a link to the online training needs analysis. But before I go, I'll pop it in the chat room.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. You can put it in the chat box. That'd be great.
Okay.
Just scrolling through in the chat box. Any other questions for Martin? No, thank you, Martin. Thank you once again for all the help and support for today. I understand it's a busy day, but let's catch up soon again.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day, Martin. Let's catch up soon. Bye.